So, my name's Gemma Haley. I'm a criminologist and a mother of two. Now, I just wanted to quickly digress a couple of things. And one is about how we can become like maybe an asset to a functioning system, or we can become a liability to a functioning system. How this can then erupt into dramatizations and extremes, and also then how it can be pushed onto you because maybe you might know too much, or you can create a gauge and narrative in society to push an agenda at the time. So in this one, I really want to get down to understanding the fact that you become an asset is where we can become contributors to a change in a functioning society. So if you might want to change the law or something because something bad happened in a situation, it might have been a one-off, right? It might have something to do with, maybe something really traumatizing happened and it brought a lot of emotion into your world, right? And how we can push things to change certain things in this realm. That's one side, you can see it. So then you can become an asset for change in this realm. Now, the thing is that if they don't want to change it, they don't want to change this stuff for a true cause of justice. This might be in the functioning society. So they don't want to change that cause for a justifiable reason, an aspect of I know energies, truth, right? What can happen is that you might become a liability. So if you, for example, know too much about a certain cause, if you might know things within a concept of what's justifiable, what isn't justifiable within a system, you might become a liability to them. And this can erupt into aspects of being targeted individuals, and it's for their cause to hide it. So you might be defamed, you might be like what Gandhi was. What happened to him? So I can't remember what happened to him, but he got in trouble for something he didn't do. He didn't commit a crime. I think it was Nelson Mandela as well. He did something. He got committed to something. He didn't do it. I think it was Nelson Mandela. It weren't Gandhi, was it? I was saying Gandhi. I think because Gandhi said there's no path to happiness. Happiness is the path, isn't it? So it was actually Nelson Mandela. He got in trouble for something he didn't actually do, and it came out. Right. So this is almost like understanding that you can be smeared throughout society, like smear campaigns. You can be the one that's targeted because you've either tried to stop something, functioning society from taking place. So this is where like ideas of like you're not good enough at your job, your role in wherever you work. Now this is because it's a smear campaign. Now this can happen either because usually it's because you're trying to stick up for something that's going on in a place that's wrong, or stuff like this. So you might be sticking up for things like, I don't know, children. You might be sticking up for things like, I don't know, human rights, things like this. So I was going to do a master's in human resources, but I didn't do it in the end. And I noticed that some of the tutors and those talking, it was very inverted. They were pushing things like people like cancer patients to go back to work, and it's almost like, how can you make a cancer patient who's on chemo go back to work if they're doing things like pissing acid, right? So we have to really understand then that there's an inequality that's taking place, but they're trying to justify it under a human rights position. I sat there and I was just like, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing human resources. You know why? Because people get paid a lot of money and they'll sit there and get firsts and all sorts. And it's to push a narrative at the time. So they do it through academia. So you could even argue through academics and things like that, they're doing it to push an agenda to make something look like it's normal and natural, coherent to, for example, make somebody go to work and they've got cancer, right? So it's like an agenda at the time. And it's to destabilise an aspect of humanity, humanitarian perspectives. And it's almost like everyone becomes targeted in the end. And it's a lack of happiness in our realm. And it's because ultimately people don't want us to be happy. And it's not the people that are just talking about it, making the policy, pushing it through. It's the people that want their firsts. This is academia. It's the people who want their first. They want a first. So they might finish their conclusion and just like push a different aspect so they can get their firsts. But you got to think they're ones who are ruling, running, changing narratives in society when all they've done is just like kind of lied. Because why would you want to be a cancer patient and go back to work? You need peace. You can't just have pressure. You'll die quicker. There's an aspect of utilitarianism that has to take place. This is a matriarchal underpinning of a theory. Okay, so this isn't regarding politics. So, like, what we have to realise is that sometimes if we don't want to fit with that narrative, so if somebody said no, I'm not going to do that, I'm going to tell people the truth, it shouldn't work. What do you think that person's going to get? You think that person's going to get like a 2-2. That person's going to get a lower grade. They're going to be told that their work's not sufficient enough, and they're not going to get a position in society where they would want. So they choose to go against a moral code and conduct to follow a principle of deontology. So that, and then it's almost like they're not even following their own moral compass at the end. So we change. It's almost like a destabilization of a truth that's taking place through academia. You get like I when I was studying, we couldn't use like material like media and stuff like this has been second-hand evidence. So when people start writing stuff, talk about stuff, it's second-hand evidence. Okay, it's not first-hand evidence correspondence. So you can't really determine something unless you can see it visually, or if it's provided to you. So when it's provided to you, you'll understand that there's a truth, and it takes place, and there might be innocence there, and there might be a level of understanding. And what we've got to do is really alternate and think, how would I feel if I was put in that situation? Is your like, for example, let's go back to cancer. Is your cancer severe enough for you not to work? And it depends really on those ideas. And we've got to understand that if there's academics pushing firsts to control a narrative, and you're not allowed to use like media and your own mind to think in an undergraduate degree, and you've got to use academic research, then there's a fallacy in that, because you're not allowing that person to use their own brain. You want them to be robots and push a narrative that's not necessarily going to benefit society from a humanitarian perspective. So when I was going to do human resources as a master's, I thought, something ain't right here. Something ain't right. What's she talking about? You can't have cancer and go back to work. What are you on about? You need a level of peace. You need to balance that out to survive. So what's really going on here? Right? So there's people pushing narratives, and it's high up. It's up there. Whoever's ticking them boxes up there to make them people get firsts. I'm not saying all of them who have firsts have discredited certain things or anything like that. I'm not saying that. That's too far. I'm just picking points so we can sort of come to an understanding of what, how you can become a liability, and then how you can become an asset to society. So and how it can be under an aspect or a guise of injustice, miscarriages of justice, and corruption. And so, really, to like get to grips, with like what can you, how you can become a liability is when you kind of like go off on your own streams, and you don't conform to that narrative at the time. This is where you don't. This is where you can actually then become, for example, I'm a criminologist. I conduct research. This can be like a where you are starting to cross the line between being a criminologist for me and a criminal. So, what do we define as a criminal in this realm? Well, it's somebody who makes decisions that go against our human rights. That's initially, isn't it, for the people? So, if you're working for the people, how can you contradict that role and say it's because you're affecting a societal construct? When the whole reason for us to be humanitarian is for it to be a societal construct, so then it falls back onto humans as a humanitarian perspective to keep the functions in society working. Because if you can't keep the functions of society working, you're going to make all these people fall. There's no beneficial in the long run. So this is where everyone starts becoming a liability, because no one's going to be happy. No one's going to be able to do what they need to do. There's too much beneficiaries and lack of humanitarian perspectives that take place. It's a dismantling of a state. It's simple as that. So you've got people that come out and they say, "Oh, this shouldn't happen. Da 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 da. This shouldn't happen." For example, I studied my stuff in 2014, so they must have read my papers or something. I must know like what I was about. So I know a lot of stuff. So what do you do to somebody who knows a lot of stuff? So this is how they control the narrative within society. Some underpinning aspects of removing our dignity, okay, smear campaigns, understanding that you're not just being self-righteous, because it's not about ego, is it? It's about what's right for the people. So it's almost like, because I got Venus sixth house. So that, what does that mean? Sixth house, service to others. Venus is love, right? So it's love for others, right? People might not understand that about me, because I'm very reserved nature, and I'm also a manifestor. So I've got I have an in aura, so I take everything in. But that's what makes me strong. So people might be uncomfortable with my position, because I take you in type thing. I understand you. I feel you, your energy, your aura. I read you, and some people are intimidated by me for that, but also at the same time I can understand you. So this is kind of like where the Venus sixth house comes in. So it depends how you want to take me, but you have to understand that if people are being persecuted, now I'm just talking about me, for example, but if you're as an outward understanding for people out there, for you lot, if you're being persecuted, right, they can just label you as an activist, right? But what they do is to stop you from becoming who you were supposed to be in the first place, which is an actor for change. They can turn you into an activist. Oh, they're breaking protocol. Like, all you got to do is argue your own point, breach peace. That's it. They use things against us as a gauge to stop us from promoting change in society. Why is that? You should be an asset, not a liability. Okay? And this is why you can tell in humanity that there's a change taking place. And this is how you can tell in 2020 there was a change taking place as well, because everything stopped. Like, there was no, like, they completely wiped out a lot of corporations. The small businesses were gone. They took out everything. They took out your businesses if you had a business. They put you in bankruptcy. Like, a lot of people went down in 2020 because the whole system changed. Okay, so this is what happened. This was going on. There was a systematic change, and then everyone had to have a job. Most of the people had to have a job, especially in public sectors. It's interesting because, a lot of people did get poorly. A lot of people didn't survive because of that job, but they didn't survive because of COVID itself, right? And, there was a lot of things that were taking place, and there was no support in them systems, no support in them fractions. Everyone was taken out. So it's almost like a disabling of a state. It's almost like they broke the whole of the they broke the tree concept within our society. So this is like a Kabbalic understanding. And just to make it simple so you can understand what I'm trying to say, because it's difficult to sort of incorporate all these things, because it's a Jewish concept. It's not like a negative, unless it's used as in a negative way. Okay, so you might find back in 2020, everything stopped, and a lot of things, a lot of people didn't find the support they needed. In Australia, domestic violence rose by 50%. Okay, so it was almost like there was a lack of humanitarian support for the people, and this is what was going on a large scale. Okay, so we've got to understand, from as I'm talking to people out there, that there's a truth, you guys, there's a truth that needs to be understood here. And it's almost like we can be smeared for this in different ways for coming out. We can be, because I know a lot of stuff, because I studied it. We was warned in second year. I'll tell you now. I went to a seminar, and it was meant to be about a work placement seminar, and we all had to go. So we was all there. It was really serious. We went there, and there was this woman stood at the front, and she said to us, "If you get a tutu, you're not going to get a job after this." And I was thinking, oh, okay. And then one of my seminar lecturers, he said to me, I was talking to him about my ideas and stuff, about how I want to go about this theory and stuff like that. And he marked me, because he was like the head of everything, and he marked me at 54 out of this assessment that I got, the next one. And he just looked at me, though, as I was asking him questions, and he went, "You're going to get a 2-2 at the end of all this." And I was only in first year, so I was like, what's he on about? How does he know what I'm going to get? How do you know what? I've worked on my handwriting. I've worked on, because I'm dyslexic, right? So I worked on my, my grammar and stuff like this. And they also pushed me down a little bit more for that. They said that they was going to give me more support, which they did. Like, they gave me like different things for support. They gave me a screen so I could read. So a lot of this was really based around almost like it was already a setup type thing. First year I was like listening to him, and he's like, it's a setup. So this is the reality, because first year he's like, "You're going to get a 2-2, gave me a mark of 54. Guess what I got? 54 out of 100. It's a C grade. It's like a C grade. But this is it. This is the reality, right? It's almost like there was certain times where we was warned, like, you if you get a 2-2, you're not going to get a job. And it's like, right, so I've got to start all over again, have I? And if you want a high paying position in a job, you've got to get that first, or that 2-1. So you've got to fit into a narrative at the time. So unfortunately, if I would say to you guys, get a degree, go to uni and all that, you got to really reconsider those options. And then also, I'd like to say as well, is that as we're coming back to the assets within society, as the narratives change, there'll always be positions where people can rise to them, and it will just be based on the narrative at the time. If you want to be that, if that's what your role is, if you want to be, if that's your narrative at the time, and if it's in society, then you take your position type thing. That's how it is. And if you aren't part of the narrative in society, if you don't want to, be part of that narrative in society and go ahead with it and shut up, sit down, not say anything, not do anything, not speak out, not do all that stuff, you're punished. And it's almost like that. And they'll use anything against you. So in 10 years' time, it'll all come out what the narrative was set at and the lives that were destroyed and the hearts that have been broken. And then you'll see the names, and all the names have all been changed of all the people that committed the offences. Ultimately, this is where we have to realise what our society is, and who's punished as a consequence, because you might have knowledge or acquired a certain amount of knowledge through your studies, and because you might know a lot of stuff, you become the targeted individual. So you sit down, shut up, don't speak, you are unseen and you are unheard. And this is how you can get things like activists, because it's not actually an activist. They're humanitarian. It's a humanitarian perspective. This is why. But also, as well, you can get things that are over the top, like a narrative that's been pushed in media, for example, and everyone's going mad about it, and it might not necessarily be as bad as what it looks. So there's things like that as well. But there are things that are being taken place in society. You know, you can say, oh, it's a dramatisation, activism they're all just dramatised, and this is why they deserve to be put in these positions, and it's not. It's because there's policies and stuff like this that they change all the time, and then you'll get like a basis of why. Like, for example, let's go back to criminology, the criminal justice system. There's a basis of why. There should always be a utilitarian perspective. This is a matriarchal energy. What is the earth, for example? Let's go into this. What is the plane? It's a feminine archetypal energy. The plane that we walk on, this earth, is feminine archetypal. If we didn't have that, what would happen? We'd all collapse into a big hole, won't we? And there'll be nothing left for anyone to walk on. So you took advantage of it that much. So you always have to understand that there has to be a baseline for everything. There's a boundary. And this is underpinning aspects of human rights. And when you cross them boundaries, and you want us all to fall into a big gaping hole, then it just goes to show what type of people you lot are. Up there, pulling the strings. Because it just goes to show that it's an archonic function. Okay? It's an archonic function in society that's taking place. Now, this is a Jewish underpinning as well. So this is also Christian as well. It's archonic in nature. And I've read stuff now about how God might be evil. I'm just speculating on that one because, you know, I don't think God would give us a ground to walk on, would he? Right? So we've always got that baseline, that boundary concept, whoever God is. Or there might be, you know, an angelic aspect to that. But it works both ways. Now, you can be a good archetypal energy or a bad one. And, you know, if that's the case, and, you know, you're just glad it's over and it's not hurting you anymore, but now it's hurting someone else, now it's hurting society, now it's hurting this person, that person, then it just goes to show that you never was good enough to be in that position in the first place. And it just goes to show that if you want to inflict pain on humanity to stop people from talking, torture and stuff like that, stop people from talking about, like, I don't know, let's go into a let's just give an example about if you want to stop people from talking about, I don't know, their truth, and, you know, you have to smear campaign somebody, then it just goes to show that it's just for a control narrative at the time, and it's just to benefit the controlling arcane factors, and it's not actually benefiting humanity. So we've got to think, what world are we going into where this is happening, and sort of like the policies that are being put through now. And, you know, you got a man smiling at the top. He's just the face of it. what's his name, Sunak, he's pushing out policy, stop the boats. He's just the face of it. He's a happy, laughy man. He's a yes man, mate. He's just a yes man. And, you know, they've obviously don't want him in, but then there's another guy coming. He'd be another yes man, pushing out at a time for his 100 grand a year. So, you know, you have to really dissect this stuff. Understand that there's people who are assets in society because they're the yes man. And then there's people who are liabilities, and it's because they stand up for what's right. They take a side. They take a position. And, you know, if people are punished for that, then it just goes to show who I am, who you are. And there's a difference between people who are yes man and do this, that and the other, or they might perpetrate to stop other people from talking, take us off our treasures, right? Take us off our treasures to stop us. That's the truth. And this is what's going on, and it needs to stop, because what happens is there's a degradation of a society. They were like in the Middle Ages, you know, like Tudor times, where there was all like, it was poverty, and they were like, oh yeah, it was Black Death, poverty everywhere, da 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 da, all these people are like dying and that and all this, and it's like, rah, it's because it was a functioning system in society at the time. And you've got narcissists and psychopaths running the world, and there's too many of them up there. They fail to weed them out. So that's just my little segment there on how you can be an asset and a liability in society and the consequences. But it shouldn't happen, should it? There should be more people standing up, weeding out the bad guys. Because we didn't just come here to live a life of misery, did we? Just because you're at the top, you got to think as well. You got people at the top, right? They've already lost a lot of stuff as well, for money, pain, gaining power. This is how you start going on level 6 education. There's a rise of like understanding that you might lose your moral code and conduct, who you are individually inside, to just arise to that position that you're in. So it's a desensitization process. So this is how people can actually become there in the first place, because they're so desensitized from what they've done and what the acts that they're committing, and because they've been around people, associated with people in groups in their realm, in their spaces, where they've just been desensitized so much, where they literally become unhumanitarian, if you like. So that's my little point that I'm going to make today. If you like my content, like and subscribe. There's going to be more. My name's Gemma Haley. I'm a criminologist. I'm not an activist. And I'm not your scapegoat either. Peace. And neither are they.